Life can be full of conflict and difficulties and challenges and roadblocks. Out in the world, we have wars in Ukraine and Israel, Gaza, fires raging in LA. Maybe our friends or loved ones are affected. I know a rabbi whose home was burnt down. The challenges of the transition to power that we're seeing these weeks. And in our own lives, illness, injury, job difficulties, interpersonal hardships, the deaths of loved ones. Maybe we feel stuck in a rut. Maybe we're affected by the weather. And if not right now at this moment, then we've all felt some of these things, and we might again feel them someday. So what do we do when we get trapped in this cycle of conflict? What do we do when hardships either happen or happen again and again and again? What do we do when we feel stuck? Our Torah portion, of course, lends some insight. We're in Parshat Vayechi. This is the end of Genesis. Jacob and his family, the original family of Israelites, are in Egypt, and Jacob is ready to pass away. Before he passes, Jacob wants to offer blessings to his family. He will bless all of his sons, but first he takes on Joseph's two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and he adopts them as his own, and he blesses them. Now, to bless them, we see a motif that we've seen again and again in the Torah, the younger sort of overcoming the older, or being chosen over the older. This is what we read. It says, Vayikach Yosef et shnehem. So Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim in his right hand, with his right hand, Israel's left, Manasseh with his left hand to Israel's right. He brought them close to him. But then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, though he was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, thus crossing his hands, although Manasseh was his firstborn. So Jacob, Israel, ends up giving the better blessing, the one that usually the older brother would get, to the younger brother. Now, this is exactly what he had tricked his father into doing for him. Jacob tricked Isaac into blessing him, Jacob, the younger brother, instead of Esau. And God had also promised that Isaac would similarly get the covenant instead of his older half-brother Ishmael. But this time it's different, because this time Jacob acknowledges what is happening. Joseph's father objects, Jacob objects, saying, Yadati v'ni, Yadati, I know my son, I know. He too shall become a great people, yet his younger brother shall be greater than he. Jacob knows what he's doing. This is how Rabbi Michael Dolgen of Toronto explains it. He says that, once again, we see that old pattern of confusion and pain, the younger over the older. He says so much is familiar. The patriarch who can no longer see clearly, the presentation of two sons at once, the older blessing the next generation in an unconventional way, the parent who tries to control the conferring of the family blessing, the apparent confusion of identities or birthrights. In other words, it seems like the same trope, the same hardships, the same obstacles will happen yet again to this family, another pattern of trauma or whatever it is for them to endure. But that's not what happens, because Jacob's actually able to break the cycle. Rabbi Dolgen continues, all of these themes have visited us before, except for one thing. Jacob says aloud that he is crossing his hands on purpose. The cycle of unconscious conflict is broken with only a few words. He says, I know, my son, I know. Only then does Jacob say that this is how we shall bless our descendants. Perhaps, he says, perhaps Rabbi Dolgen says, perhaps this means that we must be open and thoughtful about the blessings that we offer, that we cannot always control our situations. Still, despite all of this, we must have the courage to go forward and offer blessing. Sometimes life just gives us a bad hand. We're stuck in a cycle of conflict or pain or trauma, or we're just stuck in a rut and it can be so hard to get out of it. But with his intentionality, Jacob was able to break through that cycle of unconscious conflict. He was able to add purpose to his designs. He was able to say, no, this is what a blessing should look like. And in that way, he found blessing. He made connections with his son and grandchildren. He approached the world differently. We cannot always, if really ever, control the world around us. We cannot control the injuries or illnesses or wars or fires or job loss, but we can control how we react to them. We can add intentionality to our lives. We can have aim. We can purposely cross our arms when we're giving a blessing. And when we do this with meaning and purpose, that's when we find those blessings. That's when we behave just as Jacob did. Whenever we find ourselves facing obstacles, may we learn from Jacob. May we intentionally try to break through them. May we actively do so and thus find hope and meaning and blessings. Amen. Take a few moments to reflect on the blessings in our own lives. So I want to hear from you all. What are some of the blessings in your life? What are the things for which you're grateful?